Hi leaders, I'm Nick Pace, and I am sadly not going to be with you tomorrow at 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. Central Standard Time for our initial meeting. Hopefully you received the email messages. Appreciate your flexibility, and again, sorry to have to change the schedule. I want to give you a little bit of a course overview and some information to help you feel comfortable as we get started together. So that we can still hit the ground running with our course. Certainly I'll answer any questions that you have as we go along. I'll also post an introduction of myself in the discussions tool of e-learning. I see that one person has done that already. I know that you all know each other well at this point. I appreciate you taking the time to bring me up to speed on who you are and where you're from and what you do. You can look at the syllabus and get a sense of where we're headed, but and you can look at the specific objectives. Basically, the course is aimed at answering questions like, as a leader and as one who is trying to facilitate a change and growth and improvement process, how do I know there's something that needs to be changed or needs to be adjusted or altered, and how do I know if it's working? Or in other words, how do I know what I think I know? So you can see how the stated objectives of the course on the syllabus fit under that. Just a couple of other comments. As you will see when you get into the Hall and Hoard book and also the Fullen text, there's a big emphasis on practical. If it's not going to be something that's of use to you or potential use to you in the real world on a Tuesday afternoon, then we've tried to steer away from it. And I think you'll get a sense of that from the two books. The first one, The 6 Secrets of Change, from Fullen. I have plenty of dog ears, and I think you will too. I think you'll enjoy this book from the standpoint of none of those things are particularly secret. Some of them you will, I think, find yourself nodding your head and saying, that's exactly right. I so connect with that. Other times you may be thinking, yeah, that's exactly right, but I've never experienced that in my professional life, and I sure would like to. So I think you will enjoy the practicality of it. You can't talk much about a change process or facilitating change process without dealing with Fullen. I think you will like it. The Hall and Hoard text. If you have the 3rd edition, that's absolutely fine. If you had the 4th edition, that is also absolutely fine. I realize that book is spendy, for lack of a better term. But we continue to use it because the feedback has been so good from students, again, from a practical standpoint. Very much centered on real world facilitation, almost on an individual level in a lot of cases. As we'll talk about in a second, Hall and Hoard put a lot of emphasis on change readiness. And they would tell you that Michael Fullen or Hall and Hoard or anyone else, Tim Gilson, Lee Martin, Nick Pace, could come in with a great plan and a great set of ideas and a lot of experience behind them. But if the environment isn't ready, or the soil, so to speak, isn't ready, none of those things are going to matter much. And so, again, very practical emphasis. Talk with you a little bit about the assignments and the what do we have to do or what do we get to do part of the course. We'll have a lot of discussion postings, and you can see how those are laid out in the syllabus. Very informal. Those should be your initial reactions, and they're like casual conversations between colleagues. What are you thinking? What do these issues look like in your school? What questions do you have? What parts of what you have read have you nodding your head? And what parts have you scratching your head a little bit? The second assignment listed is the Change Readiness Scan. You can read the description in the syllabus. That one really gets at how well prepared or how receptive the environment where you teach is to some kind of change process. Again, with the idea that if it's not ready, it's not going to come to pass. So you can take a look at the rubric that's linked in the syllabus to get a little deeper sense of what that's about. The other assignment listed is the Organizational Culture Project. And for that project, you're going to be digging into change readiness, but kind of in a deeper sense. Really getting at the culture of the building where you work. And we often find that the plans and the efforts towards facilitating a change process are very different from place to place. Some places are very successful, very traditional, maybe stuck in their ways, and the school across town or across the globe, across the continent in your case, might be very, very different in terms of, oh yeah, constant changes are just in the culture here. It's the way we do things, and if you're not okay with that, you're probably not going to come here, or you're probably not going to stay. And there are some guiding questions that you'll see linked in the syllabus that will help you get at that culture. I think you'll find both of those to be fun assignments to dig into. The other assignment listed is the 6 Secrets report card. At the end of reading the Fullen book, I'm just going to ask you to give your school a report card based on how you think it's doing related to those 6 secrets. Now, an important point to make. Those assignments are listed as fairly typical papers with maximum page lengths and double spaced, APA citations, etc. if you're directly quoting the books, and I know that you're familiar with all that. The APA 6th edition or the OWL site at Purdue University. Please proof those, in the same way that you would not want something to go out of your office with, grammatical errors, etc. I'm happy to, point some of those out, but I'm not an APA editor. I want you to feel entirely comfortable using creativity with those assignments. In other words, if you have an idea for a better way to present those, I'm open to that. And so if you would, comic book, children's book, poem, video presentation, song, project, something very different that still captures the components of the rubric and that explains it in a way that is different than the traditional paper, know that I am more than open to that. And if you want to have that conversation, we sure can. So bear that in mind as you go forward and you start thinking about the way that you might share what you find in your change readiness scan, for example. Next, a little bit of guidance here for your reading of Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 in Hall and Horde. In the first chapter, you're going to get some exposure to their principles of change. Principles, P-L-E-S, as in ideas, not principals, school leader. As you read through those principles, I'm confident that sometimes you're going to be nodding your head and say, oh, yeah, that's more than a principle. That's a law. I would put that out there as a fact or a given or an automatic. There may be some others that you're less than convinced of, that may have you wondering a little bit or may have you a little bit skeptical. And that's absolutely fine also. You don't have to nod your head in absolute agreement because Hall and Horde published it now in 4 editions. One of the things that we want to do is spend some time talking and sharing and comparing and unpacking these ideas and talking about how they look or don't look in your own experience. That's the big point of emphasis for that first chapter in Hall and Horde. In the second chapter, which is chapter 2 if you're reading from the 3rd edition, it's chapter 7 if you're reading from the 4th edition, you're starting to turn the focus to professional learning communities. And so we start seeing quotes and statements like, the staff intellectually challenges its peers and is challenged by its peers. We talk about a network of conversations. Again, we're dealing a lot with a culture and a context and what's it feel like to be a member of this school or this community. Invite you to pay particular attention to the PLC context and culture and see what does that look like in your setting. Shared values and vision, how shared is it? Intentional learning and application, how unified is that? Is it splintered or fragmented all over the board? Shared and supportive leadership speaks for itself. Are there supportive conditions? Time, access to resources, access to people, materials, technology, equipment, expertise, and then shared personal practice. I've got someone regularly looking in my classroom talking about what I'm doing. I'm doing the same with other people, or, gosh, I would love to, but I never get to. Well, why don't you get to? Well, the schedule won't allow it. Okay, that's one issue. Or, actually, the schedule would allow it, but culturally it's not something that's done here. So, as you work through the 2nd chapter in the 3rd edition, or the 7th chapter in the 4th edition, pay particular attention and focus on what do these issues look like in my building, and how do I experience the kinds of things that Hall and Horde are describing. That will get us off to a good start as you make your initial discussion postings. Please contact me on e-learning if you have questions or you're confused at all about the start, if anything isn't seeming quite right, and or if you have ideas about alternative ways that you might approach those assignments listed. I will be posting an introduction of myself in the introduction space in the discussions tool. Again, I apologize for the late change here. I was looking forward to cyber meeting with you early in the morning, but as I said in my email, life happens. So precision in planning, flexibility in implementation. Have a great day and a great evening. I look forward to talking with you soon, and take good care.